Most of us have heard our fair share about the fiscal cliff and the sprint to the finish aspect of getting it addressed before the end of the year. There's a separate and equally important piece of legislation that also needs the attention of both the President and Congress that has important implications for jobs and the health of our U.S. economy. In this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360, we address this issue of raising the debt ceiling with U.S. Bank investment analyst Jim Russell. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
We hear these two issues debated together all the time, fiscal cliff, debt ceiling. But are they separate issues?
Brian, they are distinct issues, and I think a lot of people do confuse the two. I will tell you that the debt ceiling is likely to be, believe it or not, even more politically contentious than the fiscal cliff that we're dealing with right this second. Just to give a little bit of a finer point, the debt ceiling is basically the amount of debt that the federal government can borrow. You can get that ceiling extended or increased, as we have done several times over the past several years, by congressional vote. And that congressional vote looks very contentious this time around. Now, just to give you a feel, right on where we are right this second, we have authority to borrow as a nation $16.4 trillion. Right now we're at $16.1 trillion. We spend, or borrow, borrow about $91 billion per month. So by the end of 2012 or early 2013, this comes up as an issue again.
So we've heard about how the fiscal cliff can put us back into recession. What about this debt ceiling? How harmful could that be to our economy if it's not addressed?
Well, it can be very harmful, and what we have is a little bit of a stair-step graphic for our viewers to show just how often the debt ceiling has had to be raised. As recently as 2005, the debt ceiling was at $8 trillion, and here we are extending it probably to in the neighborhood of $17 trillion. The red line, of course, is the debt. So we're bumping up right up against this. You did not hear this at all in the elections or the campaigns, because no politician wants to be associated with higher debt and, of course, slower growth. Let me add one other thing, and that would be this is the result of us taking in $2.4 trillion in tax revenue every year, yet as a country spending $3.5, resulting in about $1 trillion, $1.1 trillion per year.
I got to address this to you as a banker. Wouldn't it be interesting if when we were spending more than we were making, if we could just increase our debt ceiling?
Bad things happen.
Yeah, we can do it, but we're going to have to pay the consequences.
Yes, sir.
What do you think are some of the potential solutions to this problem?
Well, the easy solution, of course, would be to spend less, and that is harder than it sounds. In that Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Defense Department, if you add those four categories together, that is 60% of the federal budget. So any kind of meaningful spending decrease will have to deal with entitlement reform, of course the Pentagon, and other areas as well. It is very clear to us, Brian, that the fiscal cliff and the debt ceiling will be dealt with at the same time, but again, the politics are very thick, and we don't know which direction this is going to go just yet. Just last week, the President and congressional leaders got together at the White House. Business leaders got together with the President as well last week, so I think a lot of different constituencies are weighing in and perhaps providing some good input. So it's a little bit too early to tell how this is going to fall.
It should be an interesting December in Washington.
Lots of drama in Washington.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate you and U.S. Bank.
Thank you, sir.